How shall I approach this? My opinion about reaction videos, I guess. Because I know I've been on YouTube too much this summer. I have. They talk about social media being addictive. Well, in a society when people don't necessarily have the social interactions that they ideally would benefit from and that would benefit others, sometimes one does find oneself watching a bit too much social media. Now, I've stayed off of TikTok. Well, I mean, a person who already has ADHD or undiagnosed, you start having me watch TikToks, it's not going to help me. If I can get through an entire video on YouTube, I do watch the shorts sometimes. That is wonderful. You should be very flattered. And sometimes I comment a lot on videos as I'm watching them. We'll make one comment, and then 5 minutes later, make another comment, and then another comment. And I realize that is just not normal. People don't do that. People will just think you're just crazy. Well, a fair person wouldn't think I was crazy. I'm just a person intently watching the video. I know it's not a live chat. I know the difference. Let me tell you about this live chat thing. A lot of the times the people are not really paying attention to the content that's being provided. Sometimes they are. One time I was paying, such close attention to this person, and I was getting points, not that I want points or anything or a ranking or anything. And then all of a sudden they said, I'm banned from the chat because I'm making too many comments. What? It's like I thought you wanted people to comment in the live chat. It's like, so I'm like, that's why I've been very cautious ever since that happened to me. I don't know if they thought I was a bot or what. I'm not a bot, believe me. I mean, I may not sound like I'm... Sometimes we can think more quickly than we can type, and people don't always recognize that we might have some original ideas and nobody's telling us what to say, and we thought we wanted to share something and that sort of thing. I'm not one of those trolls that just says mean, weird things. I'm not a bot. I'm really not. But occasionally I do make some comments that might be offensive just in a general sort of way, never in a personal way. Well, I apologize. I've never on live chat. Well, oh goodness. Sometimes being too honest. It's not good. But, I mean, if you want to continue listening to me, that is so wonderful. I appreciate it so much. So I know very soon I need to get off of YouTube and stop watching these videos. But on the other hand, don't you see how if I'm really watching your video and I'm giving you my honest assessment, even if you're getting a comment that you don't like, isn't that better than me just being some sort of paid-for bot? Because we know there are paid-for bots as well. I was a little surprised the other day when I saw this journalist who had left a certain news organization, and she just seemed to be getting the same kind of comment, and I thought, this is a little weird. I bet these are positive bots. I suppose they're positive paid-for bots. Why would I want that? Honestly. For myself. Yeah, I feel a little bit sad that I listen to people. I spend so many hours listening to people that don't really sound as if they're most of them, more insightful or even erudite. I said most, not all, than I somehow How did they get so many views and so many this and that? Why should I be jealous? This is not an ego thing for me, my dear friends. I suppose you might want to call it my summer hobby. I know it needs to wrap up pretty soon. But I guess I just want to react to a reaction video, if that's an appropriate way of phrasing it. So at first, I'm agreeing with this lady. There's this lady that's, slightly overweight, a brunette lady that's slightly overweight, reasonably attractive, critiquing people who were fired from their jobs because of the TikToks that they posted. I didn't sound mean when I said that. That's just my assessment of this person. In fact, initially I liked the video, then I didn't even subscribe. Like I used to just, I subscribe. Recently, I found it necessary to just unsubscribe from people because they weren't what I thought they were. And I don't, they're going down a different path, or I was a little too nice, right? By just liking and subscribing right away. But there's no shame in unliking a video after a few minutes. If you're really being thoughtful and you're watching the content. I'm not doing it for any reason like, oh, I just have an infatuation with this person. I can tell you, I'm being completely honest, I don't have an infatuation with anybody on YouTube or TikTok or any place else. I just do not, because I'll share it with you. I'm a Christian. That is not, and I'm not single, so why would I? It's not about that. It's about really being interested in what people have to say, appreciating their talents, and things like that. So I did share some feedback with this lady, I don't remember the name of her channel, that was critiquing the people who had gotten fired, or I should say criticizing really, or rendering judgment. Like, I don't think she really was an official judge, but somehow she kind of appointed herself to be a judge, as we all do really, and we all must be to a certain extent. We all have to form judgments about things, and that's not being a narcissist, it's just being a human being. Well, do I agree with this or do I not? Do I think this is appropriate or do I not? We all have the right to do that as human beings, as long as we approach it with a balanced, fair attitude and humility, correct? Yes, this is my opinion. At first I liked her video about the people getting fired because of their TikToks that they posted or their social media. At first I liked it. Oh, I agreed. I really agreed. But as it got a little bit later into the video, I started to think it really wasn't fair to some of these people. Give them some grace, right? Show them a little bit of mercy. The first incident was where the people in Chick-fil-A were, it wasn't appropriate for the, emphasizing the top torso stuff. I admit that. It wasn't appropriate, but they were not really exposing themselves, and it really wasn't good for the brand, and I do understand why they were all fired. Yeah, I understand, because you clearly understood this is the brand. We know what restaurant that is. But on the other hand, the nice part of me says, did anybody really get hurt? I mean, it didn't seem apparent that there was any hostility being shown. It was goofy and it was poor judgment. My opinion would be, were I the boss, first I'd be really upset. Fire all of them. And then after I prayed about it or thought about it or slept on it, I'd say, well, you know what? Maybe these people need to be suspended for a month, and if they still want to have their jobs back, they can come back. Just so they absolutely know this behavior isn't acceptable. It's not representing the corporate brand, and it's very important to represent the corporate brand well. Correct? Okay. Moving on to number 2. A waitress in Canada, I'm sorry, I don't remember which province. I don't want to say the province because if I say the wrong province, that would be a no-no. She's showing herself a day in the life, and she's just a reasonably attractive young lady, and she works at some unnamed restaurant. And she's just saying, well, what happens to me during my daily life? And apparently, she must have been making such videos that people found appealing. And there's nothing nasty, there's nothing threatening about her video. There's nothing that really violated anybody else's privacy. And she's fired for that. Again, it was poor judgment. Could you not have given her a warning or something? And maybe even a suspension, like maybe a 2-week suspension. And if you really do want your job back and you're ready to be serious, then you can come back. But this is our policy. But just fire them immediately. Having a blanket policy like that, is that really a good way to manage a workplace? Is that really good for society? If people that are they're not being mean at all, they're just using poor judgment, and a lot of these people are young. I could see it maybe if she, like I said, if she was a professor or something, or, but she's a waitress. Come on now. Come on. I mean, professors get away, I just thought, I didn't say it. I didn't type it in my comments. Professors get away with a lot worse by being really mean and communist and hating Trump. Maybe a lot of them do it on the down low now. This lady she wasn't being mean at all. It just seems like sometimes people that are in lower positions are easier to squash like a bug, or they attempt to do that to you. And again, the lady making the reaction video is like, yeah, I really agree with that. Now, she did seem to waver a little bit when there was a lady on the Alaska Airlines that was... It was a completely empty airplane, and she wasn't doing anything that was obscene. I mean, she's just dancing around in her uniform. She wasn't exposing herself. She was celebrating the fact that she had been there for 6 months, and she had passed her probationary period of, well, we're going to see if we really want to keep you. And at the very end, what does she do? She makes this video, this TikTok video or something, and she gets fired for making the video. That's just, it's just poor judgment. And the young lady had been there for 6 months. Could you not have given her a stern talking to before firing her? I mean, I'd just say, listen, if this happens again, we can't keep you on, and we're going to extend your probationary period, something like that. There needs to be flexibility in the workplace. But I guess I'm almost running out of topics. So there's a more serious topic. I've been watching these videos on YouTube about people who are exhibiting really bad behavior, things like that. The violence and hostility that some people are exhibiting, and they're even filming themselves doing it, and things like that, and just, it is a cry for help, and it is a problem. And I do wonder why more ministers are not talking about it. Well, they don't want to be perceived as racist, or they don't want to lose donations from their congregation. So people that aren't even ministers Yeah, because the ministers, the Christian ministers in America, they should be responsible for keeping their own parishioners in check. And if many of them go to church and they act this way, I'm not saying all, or I don't know how to say this without sounding offensive. But it seems to me, I've seen so many of these videos, it's a real problem. People just acting really super mean, violent, destructive, stealing things. Now this is getting into the realm of absolutely serious sin. And you would think that pastors would talk about this. How many do? How many? Some are at more liberty to talk about things than others, and I know that there's a price to pay sometimes. If you dare talk about this, you're going to be shunned, you're going to be ostracized by your own community, etc., etc. Is Christianity supposed to be for wimps? Especially if you're a pastor. You have to be careful, you have to use discretion, but you also have a responsibility to tell people, hey, this is sinful. And there's a problem. And really, people are being hurt by being encouraged to do this bad behavior. When I saw a little girl in a store, I think it might have been a Walmart, acting up and just throwing items on the floor, and I've seen so many videos of people just destroying things in stores for absolutely no reason, just because something set them off. This is I've never seen anything like this before in my entire life. I'm telling you, I know that sounds a little silly. People didn't used to act this way, even 10 years ago, did they? I mean, occasionally you might have your, a collective thing where things are being damaged, but now it's becoming an individual thing where people, or even just a group of youth, or a couple of shoppers, a family going into a store and wreaking havoc. So often, though, it's individuals doing this sort of thing. And you really have to think, what is wrong here? What is wrong? What is wrong? This is more disturbing than somebody dancing around in their stewardess outfit on an empty airplane, But the last thing I wanted to address is something that's more personal for me. A lot of times I will be watching conservative people, and often now, of course, they're a little bit younger than me, just a little bit, to stereotype people, or because you're not in communication with your elders, or something like that. The thing that bothered me earlier today was about a movie that's been obviously, is it panned when you're getting bad reviews? Is that called being panned? I don't remember. I'm not a movie critic. Well, the cast of this particular film was doing a rap, and then he put two of them next to each other. He said, "Oh, they're a couple of lesbians." It's like, the one girl had just short curly hair. It wasn't super short or anything like that. And I thought, that's kind of the hairstyle that I had during the 1980s, and it was totally fashionable, and it was totally considered feminine, and it wasn't considered lesbian at all. And now, see, I've said that word. I have to say it then. Maybe it's necessary. There are reasons why people get their hair, why they used to get their hair cut short in the 80s. I'm sorry that there was this mentality, everybody has to have curly hair, everybody has to have a perm, and you were weird if you didn't have a perm, and all kinds of stuff like that. But if you got a short haircut beginning, I even want to say like the late 1970s, it wasn't seen as being gay for a woman. It really wasn't. And, men had long hair and nobody thought that that was gay, It really became really fashionable for men, rock stars especially, to have long hair, permed, everything like that. We sort of had androgynous hairstyles. I mean, if you're a boy who went to school with that kind of hair, you better be one of the hip kids. You better be pretty cool, because you couldn't get away with that if you were just a normal kid attending school. But nobody thought anything bad if a girl got a haircut that was short. And the reason, it runs in the family, folks. You have to understand that everybody is gifted with this abundant, thick, coarse hair. I don't know. I don't want to say coarse, because that sounds a little bit negative, but what if you have really fine hair and you don't have an abundance of it? You mean you're not bald or anything, like I'm saying if you're a woman, okay? I'm sorry if I'm offending anybody. I hope not. I miss those days when you could go to a beauty salon or a hair cutting place and just get your hair cut short, and they would have special ways of cutting your hair to make it look like it had more volume, and it was fashionable, and it was, if you had problems with the texture of your hair, some of us have problems with the texture of our hair too, in addition to the fineness and the lack of abundance. We have problems with that. The hairdressers could do it for you. They could make you look just terrific. Now, I couldn't do that. The last time I went to somebody, it was during the COVID era, to cut my hair. I mean, they cut off so much. I thought it made me look like an old lady. I mean, they cut off so much, and it's not the hairdresser's fault. Not everybody's so talented. I didn't want her to cut off that much hair. I was hoping she would be able to work with my hair, so I didn't get the old lady haircut, but I got the old lady haircut, or the middle-aged lady haircut. I'm like, oh my goodness. I remember staring at myself in the mirror with the COVID mask on. I thought I was looking at my mom, That's sad to say, This wasn't what I wanted at all. Oh. But, the one thing I really am grateful for is the thing with the samurai knob that women are wearing these days. The samurai knob works for me because I'm able to accentuate what I think are my feminine features. You can see the contours of my face, not that I'm bragging. It's like, at least I have something good about me, right? Not everything is, ideal. And I'm not saying I'm ideal in any way, actually. But I actually like that. It's like, oh, now there's a way between somehow being a white person and paying for hair extensions, which white people don't get. It's like, I've never known a white person that got hair extensions, right? Or just like getting the short haircut, like, ooh, people are going to assume you're a lesbian. I'm sorry if they do. Please, no, please. Oh, please. Anyway, and then what would I have to do? Like get a wig or something? If I wore a wig, well, that'd be really uncomfortable. Well, just to fit in with all the other white girls, just so they know you're one of them. I don't know. We're a special class. People have hair like mine. It's fine, and it's curly, and it's thin, and I'm still white, aren't I? Oh no, you're only white if you have this huge mane of hair, and you're only sexy And you're only youthful if you have this huge, thick mane of hair, like a horse. Just being able to wear the samurai top knot brings me back memories of when I was a little girl in ballet and we wore our beautiful buns and how feminine and pretty I looked. I'm kind of recapturing that a little bit, but I'm happy with that, and it's comfortable. It's comfortable and it doesn't hurt my hair. It doesn't do anything damaging to it. So it's my wrap up. I might want to talk about a few more serious things. There's a lot of odd twisting of information happening out there. As I said, I've liked and subscribed to certain YouTube providers, and then it turns out they're going in a direction that I don't agree with. I mean, it's really sort of like a twisted psychological tactic. Okay, we're going to criticize this one person, but we're going to criticize her not for things she said that were not so good, but now we're going to criticize her for saying things that, oh yeah, that's actually true. That is true, and you are supposedly attempting to debunk things that this person supposedly has said. Oh my goodness. And then, I'm sorry, folks. I hope this is going to be my last comment. I've been seeing this for months now. People talking about, there being a network that does bad things, in order to maintain power. But then when you turn around and say, oh, well, it's all America, it's their fault, and the founding fathers were Freemasons, I don't think Freemasonry was their main claim to fame, as my dad used to say, what's their claim to fame? I don't think, by their fruits ye shall know them, correct? Didn't America grant people the greatest freedoms in the history of the entire world to all classes? And were there problems? Was there discrimination? Discrimination didn't just happen toward black people, folks. Happened toward white people too, happened toward Asian people, happened toward Hispanic people, Native Americans. But on the whole, hasn't America, and doesn't America still grant us the greatest freedoms that the world has ever known to the greatest number of people? Oh yes, I say, oh yes. But if you're going to say America is the origin of this underground network of power mongers, that's a betrayal. It really is. I do think it's a tactic, or maybe people don't realize that they're being manipulated to expose some things that are absolutely true, but then the price they must pay for doing that is giving us a red herring, right? What would the red herring be? Well, classic mystery. It's like, now this is the one who's guilty. This is the evidence. The United States of America, I love it so much. Despite the fact I've suffered a lot, just as a normal person in society. I've suffered trauma, that sort of thing. You don't know. You don't know. You want to stereotype everybody. That's not really the American way. Certainly, officially, it never was supposed to be the American way, and I still don't think that it is. But I have to say, if you're going to be given access to all this information, which is coming out, and yes, it's a bit controlled, that's for sure, please put on your critical thinking cap And if you don't know what critical thinking is, it's being able to discern things, think logically, use your conscience, think for yourself. Don't just parrot phrases, don't just have reactions. You may initially have a reaction to something and then think, well, now as I'm getting more information, I'm thinking about it differently. It's part of being a human being. That's what we should all be allowed to do, Christian or not. But I want everybody to be a Christian. Of course I do. God bless you. Thank you for listening. Have a wonderful week.